Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I'm just going to start by saying go blue.
Well.
What to do.
Another Wednesday, another pod. Another Wednesday,
Consistency is the name of the game. Consistency is success, really.
Hey, look at us. Look at us.
Really, we're talking 1 day a week here, so let's
1 day a week. I think we can commit to that. I think we should probably be able to handle that. But yeah, Wednesday night, here we are. We'll see who hops in here. We'll see what we need to talk about. We got a, pretty short show list. I mean, we'll get into what we get into. If it goes an hour, cool. If not, cool.
We already got Daryl talking about recruiting, so we know that the people want to.
Well, I got a bullet point saying recruiting stuff again. That's my bullet point to keep me on track. So Daryl, we will get into that because it's happening. I mean, it's June. We talked about this before that Michigan has in the last year and even the last couple cycles, like they haven't looked very good at this stage in the recruiting cycle. And then as time moves on and it gets closer to December, Michigan does just fine. And maybe that happens again, but I do think there are some signs that things aren't going real well, and we'll see if they can be corrected and fixed, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. First things first, though. It's Wednesday, just a few days after Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I don't know if we really mentioned that ahead of time, so we'll do it after the fact now. I had a chance to stop and see my family, my dad, and my wife met me back in my hometown with my little guy. That was on the way back from Traverse City. And Chris extended the stay in Traverse City by an extra day, kind of for some Father's Day shenanigans a little bit. But obviously we were up there for work as well.
Listen, can I ask you, are you not going to extend your stay when you look like this?
I mean.
When you look like that? I mean,
you got to. Heath Urban?
Listen, Traverse City me is not here me. It's a different me. I don't know. That it's the fresh air. It's something happens.
Obviously super nice up there. Anybody who's ever been to the Grand Traverse Resort, awesome. Great time, great surroundings, really pretty. Chris and his wife have some friends up there, so we got to do a little boat action. I mean, it was just a good time.
A little sloppy time on the boat.
It was a good time.
It was a
good time, but it was the reason, the sole reason why we were there, the main reason why we were there was for Wolverine weekend. 3 Michigan players, J.J. McCarthy, Ronnie Bell, and Traverse City native Ryan Hayes were up there kind of, milling around, palling around a little bit on the golf course with, I don't know, did we ever get a final number? 100+ golfers who came up there and played in a scramble tournament.
Yeah, looks like
over 100 guys, and they got to meet the players and do some photos and do some autographs. Chris was asked to put together some slideshow stuff and a hype video for the event, which was freaking awesome to see up on the giant screens. Cool. Photos that Chris took at the playoff and our logo on the screen. And I don't know. It was pretty cool to see that, and the event went really well. Had some speakers up there, and then, we got to see the players a little bit. I mean, it was pretty low-key. It wasn't like the whole team was there. It wasn't exactly like a setting where a bunch of interviews were being conducted. We probably could have. I think we could have grabbed Ronnie. We could have grabbed JJ and done an interview, but we kind of just took it in and documented it, took some photos, took some video, tried to create some content from it. But overall, pretty cool weekend and a pretty cool event. I don't want this to come off like we're throwing anyone under the bus, but Chris, maybe you'll do it a little gentler than I will. Explain how Saturday played out for us when we thought it was supposed to play out this way, and then it didn't play out that way. Like what happened again?
Well, I mean, it's a curveball, just like any other thing.
That's a good way to put it.
I think that's what's going to happen here with you're going to start to see this more and more as elaborate deals become, NIL deals become more elaborate, and there's more that's being asked of these kids. Obviously, there was an expectation that they were going to be there in the morning. We were there in the morning. It turns out they had a mandatory workout. And based on what you've heard and who you believe out there was a choice for either the players to skip it and make it up later or to do it then. They opted to do it then. They showed up a little later. But man, I will say, listen, these guys, I am continuously impressed with, I mean, you go through your workout or you have your meeting, you drive up to Traverse City, which is not a short drive, and then you spend the day shaking hands, meeting and greeting, talking, smiling, photos. It's a long day for these kids. And I shouldn't call them kids, young men. Big, most of them are bigger than me.
All of them.
All of them, almost all of them. But just continuously impressed with how they conduct themselves and how they do it with such enthusiasm. And you can tell when the fans are around, man, they want to be able to interact with these players. And so it's really cool that the Grand Traverse Resort, it's one of the first events of its kind like this, where the general public can come in, meet the players, ask them some questions, shake their hands, and get a picture taken. I thought it was pretty cool. Special to be a part of it. Big thank you to Eric DeBoer for reaching out and having us, come there and be a part of the event. It was awesome.
JJ's throwing, he's throwing little short passes to the little tykes running around. Ronnie's got his arms around some like 80-year-olds. Ryan Hayes is over there posing with a 4'9" old lady. It's just like, it was all comers. It was little kids. It was, guys our age with their kids, guys a little older wanted to play some golf and meet the guys. And then there was some experienced seniors, I'll say, out there just wanting to meet some Michigan football players. And there was only 3 of them. Like I said, it wasn't like it was the whole team. But it was a really cool event. And again, to piggyback on what Chris said, they were just awesome. I mean, they were just genuine. If they were faking the enjoyment, they all deserve Oscars because they looked like they were having a great time, smiles all around, ear to ear, doing everything that the fans wanted them to do in terms of, like I said, throwing the ball around or doing this pose or doing that pose or talking to someone on the phone. I mean, I saw a little bit of everything while they were out there, and it was a really cool thing to see. Yes, a slight curveball thrown by one Jim Harbaugh, but that's kind of what you come to expect, right? They're supposed to be there in the morning. They don't show up until 2. Changed the way that the day went a little bit, but it still played out. Dude, I mean, can you just rewind a little bit and talk about how stressed out Eric looked when we were rolling up?
I told him I've been in that position before where you're waiting for people to show. I mean, hell, when we did the interview for the 3 guys, you saw me walking around on my phone trying to make things happen, constantly texting. I mean, I've been in that spot before, but once it came together and they rolled with it last minute and they kind of, they made it work, man. Like I said, it was just a beautiful event. It came together really well. It was the first time they did it. And my understanding is that their plan is to make this an annual thing. So I know there were a lot of people on the Facebook page who were bummed out that they didn't get the chance to get up there and meet the guys. As far as I know, they're planning on making Wolverine weekend an annual thing up there in Traverse City. And so, we'd be more than happy to be a part of it. And I'm sure a lot more fans would like to attend if they were able to.
I will say it is going to be damn hard if they continue to have that event to have a better day. Weather-wise, sky, the colors. I mean, dude, we were taking photos and me and you were driving around on the golf cart for a little while, just trying to act like we knew what we were doing and look important for a minute.
It was the perfect weather for my hangover. Like if it had been like mid-80s and sweaty, it could have been a whole different situation. But Mother Nature really looked out for us on Saturday. And no, we did not golf. We just kind of putzed around and took some pictures. And
so, Lewis, here's the deal. We thought that the players were going to get there around 8 or 9. And then we'd be kind of working the whole time, driving around. We didn't really know exactly what they were going to do. Like, I think the original plan was to have the players get out there and swing the clubs around a little bit, because they had like longest drive competition closest to the pin. Then they put like a Michigan football out in the middle of one of the fairways, and you had to try to get closest to that off the tee. So they had a few different contests, and I think the players were kind of supposed to be stationed around at different spots on the course. But because they got up there later than they were originally planning on it, they didn't do that. So Chris and I thought we were going to be driving around on the course, kind of watching, getting photos of this, getting B-roll footage of that, watching the players interact with the golfers and just kind of seeing what we could see. Well, that didn't happen. They didn't get there till 2:00. So we had 6 hours where we could have been playing golf. I didn't even bring the clubs. I didn't think we'd really have time to play. I'm positive that if we had brought the sticks, Eric would have let us get out there and hit it around a little bit. So,
no question.
Unfortunately, Lewis, no, we did not golf, but we pretty much had free reign of the place. Eric gave us a cart and said, "Go do your thing." It
was great,
and that was awesome. And like I said, we were able to see the whole course, take some photos, got to talk to some some just regular old dudes out there having a blast and just really enjoying themselves. And so it turned out to be a really good event. And then the dinner in the evening time, like I said, Chris was kind of the star of the show for a minute there. Give your take on what it was like seeing your stuff up there, man. Because you even said to me before we walked in, like, is this going to be on like a big TV in one, like, we had no idea what it was going to look like. And it was pretty grandiose, man. It was a big deal.
It was, yeah. Every time I make, when I'm making content or making videos or whatever, I'm always doing it on my phone, a really small screen. And it's just a different experience when you see something that you put together up on a couple big screens in front of you in a room where there's I don't know, a few hundred people. And, it was cool, man. There was some applause during it. People, it was all for the players. Like, all I did was just put together highlights of the guys doing what they do. But I thought it was a really cool way to kick off the event and, to give people an idea of why they were actually there and who they were there to see. So I thought it was an experience, that one of many unique experiences that I've had since I've started doing this. And I'm grateful.
I know it had to be a cool moment. It was the day before Father's Day. Your little kids are sitting at the table right there. By the way, maybe the best behaved kids I've ever seen in my life for like a 2-hour presentation. They were incredible. I know at dinner last night, that night, they got a little squirrely. We can talk about that too if we want to. How are your Jordans, by the way, since your kids stepped on them about 50 times?
Well, I'll put it this way. The kids are staying with grandma for a couple days. And so mom and dad, after the vacation, needed a home vacation.
No, but it was a really, like, I've got a little guy who's 2.5, so he's not quite doing stuff like this yet. But at one moment, Chris's son turns to his mom and goes, "That's Dad's logo up there." And that had to be cool, right? That had to be cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
And it was cool to see that video. It turned out really well, and everybody seemed to dig it. I know Eric was really appreciative. And real quick, what is Eric? What was his title? We've mentioned him a few times now for people who don't know.
He is the guy when there's events that happen at the Grand Traverse Resort. He's like one of the guys that you want to talk to. And so again, he was on top of his stuff. He worked with me. He was the one that actually reached out to me, contacted me initially, and we started hashing around this idea. And then it blossomed into a hype video and some of the other things that we did. And so, yeah, man, that's how a lot of these things work. They just sort of, they happen organically, and it's really cool to be embraced by the Michigan community the way that we have been in terms of being asked to be a part of some of these really neat events.
Yeah. So just a good time, just an overall good time. A little bit of a trip. I see Darren May saying Traverse City's way up there. Yeah, it's pretty far, almost 4 hours down from Southeast Michigan, where I came from, heading up from Ypsi. It's a hike. Heading up from Ann Arbor, it is a hike, but it was a lot of fun, good time. If you are at all interested in making that event in the future, do it, because it was worth it. It was tip top. It was run extremely well. And I think there's different levels of ways you can participate too. Like I think some just did the golf. I think some just came for the dinner. I think some did one or the other or did both, whatever. But yeah, really cool event. Glad I got to be a part of it. And then I headed back and stopped off for some Father's Day festivities. So really good weekend, man. And now we're back here on a Wednesday, kicking off the pod and going through whatever we need to go through. Speaking of really cool events, speaking of things coming together organically, I'm going to let Chris tease something a tiny bit, if he wants to. Well, I'm not going to overstep here.
I'll just say this. I know that people are anxious about what Michigan's going to, what they're doing from an NIL standpoint. And even guys like us, we look at what some of the other programs are out there doing. They're parading around, the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris. And, you kind of want to see Michigan play that game as well. All I'll say is that Michigan is doing big things, NIL related. There's a really cool event that's coming up very shortly that we are, man, I can't even say how fortunate we are to be a part of. We're going to be teasing it a little bit. So there's one photo. I was on location today. I can tell you this. Here's what I can tell you about where I was at. Mm-hmm. It was hot as hell. Brandon, we talk about our fat guy rags. Look, I thought because I dropped like 55 pounds, I'm like, I don't need that. It's in the 80s, but I'm good. Man, I got there and people were asking me if I needed water. I think they were going to get me a medic based on the way I was sweating. So, but there's some stuff coming, man. There's some stuff coming. And hey, I will say this, anybody that follows us, you are going to get some exclusive content that you're just not going to see anywhere else on any other platform.
What else is new? That's all we do.
we're trying to make a habit of that, but this is really going to be, it's a new level. Let's put it that way. A new level of
taking things to new heights, if you will. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, we will talk about this briefly because Chris did put up an article about it. It has absolutely nothing to do with Michigan other than we're shitting on Michigan State. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we are.
But, AJ, yes, we did see the Mel Tucker violations. Again, I will refer to Chris because he put the story up on it earlier. How did you put it earlier? You're like, well, I mean, if I go through a day and don't get wrapped up in a lawsuit, that's a good day.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people were
saying that.
There were some people that were like, well, it's only a lawsuit for over disclosure. They basically, the general deal for anybody who doesn't know what it is the Detroit Free Press is suing or has sued or filed a lawsuit against Michigan State University. Long story shorter, to put it in layman's terms, they want information on a couple of donors who contributed to Mel Tucker's lucrative $95 million 10-year contract extension. Look, I don't think I'm not suggesting there's anything there, and it might be a non-story. But what I will say is when you don't want that in the headlines, you don't want to be sued by somebody. And so anytime that happens, it's newsworthy, it's noteworthy. And you do kind of wonder, if there is we know what's going on with NIL. And when you're driving around in Ferraris and you're parading yourself around and you're smoking cigars with your gold chain and you're doing this and you're doing that, you're probably going to get people that are curious about how it all works. And so, as somebody with the Freep said, it doesn't seem like Michigan State has been shy about what they're doing. I just think people want to know how it's actually working.
I would also say this. Call it a non-story if you want. Call it poking the bear, calling it putting something up for clicks, whatever. I don't care. Call it whatever you want. You cannot tell me that if Jim Harbaugh in Michigan was getting sued by a newspaper that people in other markets wouldn't run to the presses, would sprint to the presses to talk about it and put a story together about it. It would be probably on, like, Paul Feinbaum would probably be talking about it right now. Right. If that happened with Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. So I don't entirely disagree with the sentiment that it's not that big of a deal. It's not really going to affect anything. It's not really like, oh, the football program is going to falter because, like, no, it's nothing like that. But like I said, it's also June 22nd. Give us a break. All right. We're trying to come up with the best stuff we can. There you have it.
Listen,
right?
if Michigan State gets sued in June, I'm going to write a story about it. This is the way it's going to be. That's where we're at.
We're going to talk about it a little bit. All right, another little small piece of news. I'm curious to see how this goes because, well, Joey Baker, Duke transfer, men's basketball. He's going to be a Wolverine next year, his final year of eligibility. He started 4 games at Duke. So, like, we're not talking about, like, an All-American candidate here, a guy who was, instrumental in dozens and dozens of wins under Coach K. But he played at a place like Duke with lots of really good players, played at a high level, played in some big games, and now he's a Wolverine, and that fills up one of Michigan's roster spots that it has available with the departure of Caleb Houston and Musa Diabate. Joey Baker's 6'6", 210, can really shoot it. Obviously a smart guy. He's been in the program at a place like Duke for 5 years. That doesn't hurt. 4 years. This might be his 5th year, I think. And he has started some games, and he's played some decent minutes. So, Chris, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a deal is it that Michigan now has Joey Baker on its roster for next season?
I think his ability to shoot counts. I think his experience counts. I don't know, how impactful is it? I'm really curious what this team is going to be. There were a couple of guys that I was really excited about that aren't even there anymore that I anticipated were going to come back and be in the fold. And so I don't know, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much does it move the needle for me? To me, it's like a 5. They've added a piece that can, that can score the ball, and, he'll serve as another body out there. But again, I get worried about Michigan in the tournament time without having a premier scorer. And they've got some voids that they got to fill. And I think I'm in football mode right now. Okay. It's hard for me to get there right now with the basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, it's even further off. Obviously.
Right. Amani Bates, is he going to come to Michigan? Are we there yet? Is that still on the table?
It seems
are we going to make any big splashes?
They still have a roster spot available. Amani Bates is still out there. This Lebanese international player, Yusuf Kayet, has got Michigan in his top 4. I really like him on tape. He's about 6'8", long, can shoot it, can finish at the rim, plus athlete. and he's been playing, semi-professional ball overseas in the French league for a while. So
It doesn't hurt.
There's a few things out there that could end up happening with Michigan's final roster spot. I agree with you. Before you said your number, I was thinking like a 4. I don't think Joey Baker's going to start. If he does, it's probably a problem. That's probably a problem if he works himself into the starting lineup. I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibilities because Michigan is pretty thin at the 2 and the 3 spot. There's nobody there that's really played any meaningful minutes before. I guess if you want to count Terrence Williams as a 3, I think of him more as a 4 personally, but they just don't really have anybody there. Like as of right now, you've got Kobe Buffkin and probably Jet Howard as your penciled in starters. I mean, that's a guy who barely played last year in Kobe Buffkin and a guy who's never put on the uniform before in Jet Howard, even though he is pretty hyped and pretty talented and physically ready to play. So I'm interested to see what Joey Baker's role is. He can shoot. He does have experience. He's played in big games. Those are all pretty valuable traits, but he's not a guy where you're like, whoa, that just took Michigan to another level. He's just not that guy. And that's okay. Like you said, they have some voids. They have some holes to fill. They needed depth. He's great for that. And that's about as far as I think it goes with him. Now, he could surprise. He could outperform. I mean, he's 6'6", and he shoots 40% from 3. I mean, you might get a lot out of him. I don't know. We'll see. But that happened. I think that happened while we were up north.
It
right?
did. Yeah.
Saturday, maybe. I think I put a story up about that in the morning while we were waiting for the golf stuff to get going. So anyway, worth at least mentioning. And Chris, here's one other sport that we don't cover a lot, but we talked about it a little bit last week. Eric Bakich, the Michigan baseball coach, is officially Clemson's new baseball coach. But without getting into the specifics of that or what that means or who might be next up, because I'd be lying if I said I was really informed. I'm not. Obviously, you could pay attention to some of the names out there. Chris Fetter, the pitching coach for the Tigers, who used to be at Michigan, has been rumored, but I think that's died down a little bit. There's other people around college baseball who might be interested. But I wanted to just kind of ask a bigger picture question here because it kind of sucks. When you just hear how it's playing out, I don't need to get into the specifics of who's who. But Eric Bakich leaves, and now 3 or 4 of Michigan's best baseball players are in the transfer portal. That blows. I just want to know kind of like, how do I want to ask this? I'm not going to do the scale again because, again, I don't think we're following it enough to know what kind of impact that might make. But what's your opinion of that? What's your opinion of like players immediately jumping ship into the transfer portal when something like a coaching change happens? Do you think that's well within the rights of the players to do because that's who recruited them? That's their guy. That's who they've been playing for? Or should there be a little bit more loyalty to the school? Like, where do you kind of fall on that? Because it sucks. I mean, this is a program that's had a lot of success under Bakich. Now he's gone, and it looks like some of his best players are going with him.
Yeah, I think, well, I would say this. I think that if there's a departure and there's some uncertainty about how the future might look, and you know that there's some certainty elsewhere where there might be a better situation, rather than wait and see what might happen at the University of Michigan. Look, we talk about it all the time that these guys now have the flexibility to make moves that coaches have been making for years. And I know that people don't like it and they want to, as a fan, you want to say like, yeah, they should remain loyal to the program. They've been with the program. They should want to see it through. But at the end of the day, your head coach takes another job. You talk about seeing it through, and everything you want to say about what a player should do, you would then have to apply that to the coaches, and you can't do that. And so does it suck that they leave? Yeah, it sucks, but I get it, especially when a coach that's as revered as he was takes off.
College sports are just so different now, man.
So different.
There's no more, these, I mean, it's there, but it's few and far between where you can just, like, I'm a pretty big college basketball fan, and I realize for the last handful of years, I don't know anybody about anyone on like Duke's roster, North Carolina, Kansas, they just Kentucky, they just load up on these one and done guys, and then the next year it's a completely new roster, and you never get that sense of like, the identity of a team being a guy or two, like a core. Like I think back to like Tyler Hansbrough or something like that.
Yeah.
Where like that's North Carolina basketball's team right there. You just don't see that. And he didn't really pan out in the NBA, and that's why he stayed for so long. But it's just changed so much over the last handful of years where you're just You're never going to really see that. Like Moussa Diabate had everything in his power to be a fan favorite, a massive fan favorite, and you're never going to see it. You're just never going to get that.
And part of that is NIL.
Yeah.
Part of that's it's not. It's just there are so many layers to it now with the transfer portal, NIL, the way people move around. You're right. It is tough. Like it is a full-time job just trying to keep up with who's on whose roster and who's transferring where because there's so much movement. And I think that the older generation is really struggling to stomach what college football looks like these days. And you can hear it coming out of Jim Harbaugh's mouth a little bit when he says transformative, not transactional. And it's that mindset. And philosophy wise, I get it. I'm all on board. But the reality is this is just a different brand of sports now. It just is. And you're either going to compete in it or you're not. And I think Michigan might be finding sort of their little pocket where they feel comfortable just doing enough. They're not going to, they're not going to pedal to the metal, and it is going to cost them. And you've heard them say, you heard a guy like Braylon Edwards say it. Braylon Edwards came out and said, I'm okay if it costs us national championships if we do things the right way.
Oh, God.
So, I don't subscribe to that idea, but that's coming from a guy like Braylon Edwards, who has been as critical of the program at times as anybody, who's willing to sacrifice that, presumably by doing things the right way.
What did he say?
It was something to the effect of, just talking about the way that Michigan's doing things from an NIL standpoint, that he believes Michigan can still compete for and win a Big Ten championship with the way they're doing things from an NIL standpoint, but they'll never be able to win a national championship with what they're doing. And he's fine with that.
Anytime I'm talking to anybody and the phrase the right way comes out of their mouth, that's what I hear. That's horseshit. No one cares. No one cares if they're doing it the right way. What do you mean? Win. Go win. Right? Am I crazy?
Well, I mean, they did win. They did win. They're doing it the right way, and they did.
Well,
and that's the thing. It's really you can't criticize really anything right now.
I think they snuck it in there at the last minute with this win last year because it's changed. It's changed. It's completely changed. We've already talked about how I think it's going to look different on the recruiting rankings and the way things are playing out and where transfers end up going and who leaves and who comes and all that. Like it's going to the gap's only going to get wider and it's going to get worse. And if Michigan really is going to do things the right way, then that's what you're going to get. And I just think dude, people who say that, if they really believe that, there's no way they really believe that. Like, what do you care? What do you care if someone is I don't know.
You don't care. It's posturing. It's what fans do when things aren't going your way from a recruiting standpoint. You say, well, we don't want any of the 5-star receivers anyway because we're going to do shit the right way, and that's how you make yourself feel better. But I don't know, man. It's all BS. And look, it is not okay with me for Michigan to never win a national championship. I can't believe that would ever come out of Braylon Edwards' mouth. I want to see this program win a national championship. Do I want them to do things the wrong way? No, but I also want them to play the game.
What's the wrong way at this point? I mean, I have a hang up with that. Like, I don't understand what that means. The wrong way? I mean, like, NIL has clearly shown that you can do these things and they're above board and they're within the rules. Like, what is the wrong way? I don't even know what that means when Braylon Edwards says something like that. Like, I'd rather have him do it the right way.
Well, isn't the assumption that you're there's a bag man and there's things like NIL isn't just, it's not completely wide open to whatever you want to do, right? There are some rules and some regulations. Now, whether or not those are being enforced, I mean, has it ever really been enforced at some of these major programs? Somebody's mentioning Nick Saban.
Well,
look, this is college football. And for however much sleazy stuff was going on before, we talked about this before. There's going to be a lot of good things that come out of NIL, and we've been a part of some of those things, but there's going to be a lot of shitty things that come out of it. But regardless, it's all coming out. It's not going back in. You're not going to be able to stop this stuff. And so for everybody who's resistant to embrace it, I just think you're going to be behind the 8 ball. But there's some people that subscribe to the idea that, programs like Texas A&M and Ohio State and some of these guys, they're going to go out and get all these recruits and they're going to do all these NIL deals. And then 5 years from now, they're going to find themselves in a tough spot because they overplayed their hand. I just don't see it working out that way. I see other programs stacking up and loading up on talent. And I keep thinking that at some point, Michigan's just going to flip a switch. And because they're the Big Ten champions, they'll be up there in the top 10 in recruiting rankings. Doesn't feel like that right now. Doesn't mean it won't, but it just doesn't feel like that now.
I mean, it's what we talked about before. Michigan got like 15 or 16 of its commitments in last year's highly ranked class after this date, after mid-June. So, I mean, there's still plenty of time, but I feel like there's some signs that indicate
You're concerned. You're concerned.
I'm a little concerned. I mean, Michigan had multiple top target offensive linemen pull the plug on Michigan this week. And that's off of a Big Ten title winning season where the offensive line won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in the country. Michigan steadily puts offensive linemen in the NFL. That's a position where they can actually say that. Running backs, nope. Quarterbacks, nope. Wide receivers, not really. Defensive linemen, yes. Offensive linemen, yes. Couple secondary guys here and there. But I am a little bit concerned. I mean, we talked about what Michigan State's doing. I mean, good Lord, dude, Ohio State, then they've always done this, but it just seems like it's happening even more now with NIL and the things that they're doing. They just got back-to-back commitments out of 5-star wide receivers, like the number 2 and number 3 receiver in the country. Michigan hosted a 5-star wide receiver this past week, Dante Cook. But I said it to you right before we got on the podcast, man. I put up a story about how dope he looked in his uniform. He's got the visor on. He's wearing number 1. Aaron Bills put Cook the second on the back of his jersey in the middle of the tunnel. He's flexing. He's doing this. He's doing that. Why would that kid come to Michigan? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm being straight up honest. Like, he's a Texas kid. He's got A&M, Texas, Oregon. I think he actually had Jackson State in his top group. That kind of seems to be like a thing that guys are doing right now with Dion there and whatever. But what would be the motivation for a big play, speedy wide receiver to come to Michigan? It's a hard sell, man.
We've talked about it before. Go back to Donovan Peoples-Jones, Nico Collins, Tariq Black. I know Tariq Black had some injuries, but you look at the list of receivers who have come through Ann Arbor, and the offense just isn't. If you're a big-time wide receiver who wants the ball in your hands, you want to make plays, this offense, this isn't the offense.
Yeah.
But that isn't to say that you're not going to get in the, I feel like people look at that as a knock, like you're knocking Michigan's offense. You're not. It's just, look, this is not a get vertical type offense. It's not a big play type offense. They want to run the ball. At least that's what they wanted to do last year, build everything off of that. Cade McNamara was the definition of a game manager last year, and that suited him very well. They didn't ask him to do too much. He didn't have to do too little. He did just enough. And I think when you get guys who are those 5-star, I want to make a play, I want to be that guy, they want the ball in their hands, and they're just not interested in, even for as big as the brand is and playing in the big house and in front of 110,000 people, if you're blocking all evening, it's not that exciting.
So Michigan did have some big plays last year. I think they actually might have led the Big Ten in plays over 60 yards. Like it was a pretty shocking statistic. They had, Blake Corum had some 60-plus yard runs. Cornelius Johnson had the 87-yard touchdown. Roman Wilson had the long touchdown catch in the Big Ten title game. Like they had some big plays, but I'm just going off the top of my head. I'm probably wrong because I don't remember the stat book or the box score or anything. But so Roman Wilson had the long touchdown catch in the Big Ten title game, right? Was that his only catch? I mean, he may have. What did he have? Another one, maybe 2.
Right.
My point is, okay, there's some big plays to be had, and Michigan did make some big plays. AJ Henning had a couple really long runs on the jet sweeps, whatever. They had some big plays, but when your leading receiver catches like 30 balls, dude, you're not getting 5-star wide receivers. You're not. You're just not getting. Yeah, Chris is pulling it up. You're just not getting those kinds of players when they can look across the way in the Midwest, in the Big Ten, and look at Ohio State and say, well, their leading receiver caught 65 balls. That's twice as many. I'm getting 2 seasons worth of production over there.
Michigan's third leading receiver was Blake Corum. Leading receiver was Cornelius Johnson with 40 receptions.
40.
And then you've got Andrell Anthony had 12 receptions, and I think 7 of them came against Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken. Mike Sainristil surprisingly had 21. Roman Wilson had 25 receptions. AJ Henning 10 receptions. I go and compare it to what's going on over at Ohio State and look at what there were
10 catches in a 14-game season.
10 catches for AJ Henning, who is an incredible talent.
So they won a lot. They won at a very high level. They dominated Ohio State. They dominated Iowa. But if you're specifically talking about recruiting big-time players, and there's a lot of people out there who think that the sky is falling on the 2023 recruiting class, that's why. I mean, that's a hard sell when kids are looking at production and I want to go play, I want to make plays, I want to play early. And you can look at the quarterback position as well. Dante Moore is the only quarterback being recruited by Michigan right now in the 2023 class. The only one. And he is reportedly getting ready to take an unofficial visit to Oregon this week, where he's already officially visited. And there's a lot of people out there who think he's going to pick the Ducks. Like, that is a kid in Detroit who wants to pick Michigan so badly, but he doesn't want to throw the ball 14 times a game and throw for 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. He doesn't want to do that. And Michigan already missed on C.J. Carr in the 2024 class. That's Lloyd Carr's grandson. He's going to Notre Dame. I mean, this is not like I don't know how to describe it. I mean, like, the results are what the results are. Michigan won very, very big last year, did something that hadn't happened in a really long time. And now you would never know it. You would never know it based on the momentum of the program in the offseason and the recruiting trail and how things look and feel. And, like I said, it's even along the offensive line where Michigan was dominant, they're missing out on their top guys. Caden Proctor eliminates Michigan. Caden Green eliminates Michigan. 5-star kid that they just had on campus last week. I can't remember his first name. His last name is Jagusa. He's projected to go to Notre Dame. I mean, like, these are the biggest targets on Michigan's board, and they're not landing them right now. Now we have 6 months until signing day, but I do feel like there's some trends developing that give me reason to be concerned.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on the show, or I think when you were texting me, but let's assume that it wasn't Ohio State, but it was Michigan that signed back-to-back 5-star receivers. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'm excited about that. Don't get me wrong. If that happens at Michigan, of course I'm excited about it, and everybody's going to be excited. We're going to write stories about it. But what good does it do in this type of offense? And that's where I'm at. Like, I'm looking at, people are all up in arms about what's going on with recruiting. Like, we have J.J. McCarthy now. We've got Roman Wilson now. We've got A.J. Henning now. We've got Andrell Anthony now. We've got, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards now. Like, those guys are here. And so I think the best case you can make on the recruiting trail is to go out this year and use your weapons. Show that this offense can work in the 21st century. And I know you said that Michigan may have been, near the top in big plays, which is surprising. But we also sat in the press box and watched that offense, and we watched every snap. That is not a big, like unless Blake Corum is bursting through the hole and making something happen, like, they can make big plays. But I just think the way this offense is designed, you're not going to get the guys who really are the premier players who want the ball in their hands, who want to showcase their talents for the NFL, to come to Michigan. Those high-profile 5-star players, unless Michigan changes how they do things offensively, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean,
name who's the last major offensive? I mean, think of some offensive talent to come through Michigan under Jim Harbaugh. Think of some of those high-profile guys, offensive. I know we're pulling in defensive guys, but I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, think about some of the high-profile weapons.
Yeah, he was, the number 1 receiver in the country, 5-star kid, looked like a first-round pick every single day of his life until he got to Michigan, pretty much. I mean, that's
what happened.
Never had a 100-yard receiving game. Never had close to double-digit touchdowns. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough. It's a tough sell. I mean, and like, I'm trying to just speak the facts and give you the numbers. What do you think the Ohio State coaches are saying? What do you think Michigan State coaches are saying about Michigan's offense and the numbers and what it looks like and where their offensive skill players are drafted? I mean, dude, it's not that hard to figure out, like, how easy it would be to negatively recruit Michigan in those areas. And again, It's 6 months until signing day. We might pull this back up and say, man, are we dumbasses?
Can I just say
November, but it's concerning.
Okay. So this goes in line with what we were talking about. So Cornelius Johnson was number 1 with 40 receptions last year, right? Jackson Smith Njagba, is that how you say his last name for Ohio State?
Yeah.
95 receptions. Chris Olave, 65 receptions. Jeremy Ruckert, 26 receptions. Travion Henderson, 27. So, I mean, their top 2, 95 and 65 receptions. Michigan's top 2 receivers were like 40 and 26, respectively. So, I mean, that's why Ohio State's getting 2 5-star receivers. When they see, 95 receptions? Yeah, I'm about that. When they see 26 receptions, I'm not about that.
How many catches did Garrett Wilson have? He just got drafted like in the top 15.
Let's see. Garrett Wilson. Where is he at? Garrett Wilson. 70 receptions. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. 95, 70, and 65 for their top 3 versus Michigan, which was 40, 26, and 24. And the third guy was Blake Corum.
It was a running back.
Yeah. So that's why Ohio State's getting 2 5-star wide receivers right there.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, Darren. Darren says stats mean nothing on
They don't mean anything on game day, but they do mean something to recruits who want the ball. And I mean, that's just the way it is.
I was gonna say that, Chris, not to poke a hole in your argument, because I agree. Michigan has dudes, like legitimate dudes on the roster already right now. The problem, and you said I think the best approach is just to showcase them, get them going. The problem with that is like they don't play a game for 3 months. Recruiting's going on right now. Official visits are happening right now. Like, so it's got to be a systematic thing. It's got to be a pattern. You can't, like, what are they going to sell right now when they look at some of those stats and some of those numbers? And another weird thing, honestly, is like, where are the top flight running backs? Michigan can sell that. Where's that at? Hassan Haskins scored 21 touchdowns last year, almost had 2,000-yard backs. Oh, by the way, we have the best offensive line in the country. Come run the ball for us. Really not able to do that either. It's weird, man. It is a weird thing. Yeah, I don't disagree, Chris Hamill there. Darius Clemens looks like he is going to be special. What does special mean? Catch 11 balls this year as a freshman? I mean, is that special? Looking special and producing special are 2 very different things. Donovan Peoples-Jones looked like a defensive end. Never had 100 yards at Michigan. I mean, you got to use them, man. You got to use your horses all over the place. And there's, you can have it both ways. You can have a 1,000-yard running back. You can have receivers who catch 80 balls. You can have tight ends who score 5-6 touchdowns. You can have running backs who are or quarterbacks who are dual threats. And you can have it all if you use everything correctly. And we'll see this year. Last year, the run-heavy stuff, it worked out to perfection. You can make a pretty strong argument that the 6 years prior did not. And that's a fact. So we'll see what it looks like this year. I mean, there's a lot of people that are excited about what that offense could potentially look like. Will it be Cade again? Chris and I have both said, yeah, it feels like it is. Feels like it's going to be Cade's job. And then I can't imagine it's going to look hardly any different than it did last year. And what does that look like in 2022? Will it play out the same way? I don't know. Michigan's schedule is pretty favorable. They're probably going to do pretty well again. I mean, even if Chris is the quarterback, you think?
I feel like I could be a serviceable quarterback. Boy can throw some seeds out there. Could turn around and hand it off to Donovan Edwards, let him do his thing. I could do that.
Throw some seeds. Fragles, I like the question. I'll throw it up there. Our opinions on Zack Zimmer. Think he's a force.
He's a tank. He's a unit. He's probably the best offensive lineman we got. I mean, I'm not even going to mention his name, but a former coach here once referred to him as the best offensive player that Michigan had. And so I know people are high on Zack Zimmer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's been, starting since he was a true freshman. He's bigger, stronger, smarter now as a junior. He's going to be a stud. That offensive line should be really good. The 4 of the 5 positions are essentially locked in, and they are freaking good. Yep. Ryan Hayes at left tackle is good. Trevor Keegan at left guard is a stud. Olu Oluwatimi is one of the best centers in the country. If you look at his draft grade, he's taken over for Vistardis, and then you've got Zinner at right guard. You just got to find a serviceable right tackle, which I think you can make an argument is one of the most dispensable positions on the. I mean, they're all left tackle kind of gets the shine, but they're all pretty important in how they work together as a unit. But if you've got
Barnhart there, right? Barnhart.
Yeah, Barnhart. Maybe it's Trente Jones.
Trente
Maybe it's
Jones.
one of the younger guys who we haven't seen much of yet, but those two dudes have played a good bit. Is that a fair statement? I don't want to disparage any right tackles out there, but Chris, if you said, all right, let's like say you're playing like Madden or NCAA and you've got 5 linemen and 75 is your lowest ranked guy, where would you like him to be at?
Yeah,
I
don't think it's a negative. It's just some things just are what they are,
Yeah.
like just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's you need the power and the battery up the middle in your center guard, left tackle. You've got to protect that quarterback's blind side. Right tackle, that's I mean, you hear it every year in the draft. You're like, he's not good enough to play left tackle, but we'll play him at right. I mean, like That's just what it is. That's that spot. You could maybe make an argument for the guards too, because if you've got a really good tackle and a really good center, they can kind of mask what the guards do a little bit. But I don't know. Anyway, my point is 4 of the 5 spots along that offensive line are really good, and we already know that. And I think the right tackle could be just fine too. Maybe even not as big and strong as Andrew Stuber, but probably more athletic. Both Barnhart and Trente Jones are definitely quicker on their feet, probably more flexible, a little bit better in the space game. So we'll see what that looks like. But
I love this question from Fletch. Fletch lives
daily. Well, yeah, Chris has been pounding this drum already since the season ended in December or January.
And a lot of people aren't going to agree with me, but it is the
read the question.
Okay, how important? Fletch wants to know how important is the MSU game this year, and what happens if Michigan loses again to Sparty. I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on the show, but Brandon, we've talked about it a lot. I think the Michigan State game is the most important game on Michigan's schedule. I know that Ohio State is always supposed to be the biggest game, but I'm telling you, based on what happened, and Michigan fans, you might not going to like this, but this is a dose of reality. Michigan can afford to lose in Columbus. The sky's not going to fall if they lose in Columbus because they just beat the Buckeyes last year, so they got that monkey off their back a little bit. If they go 0-3 to Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans, including 0-2 at home, it's going to be a problem. You can already see the momentum building in East Lansing. And if you think the recruiting is going to dip off, if they continue to beat up on, Big Brother and State, it's just not going to happen. And so to me, Michigan absolutely cannot lose to the Spartans at home again. They have to win that game. If they don't win that game and they recover and they go on to win a Big Ten championship like they did last year, just seems improbable to me. That you got to take care of the game in your backyard, and this is the one.
Yeah.
Yes, you know what? Beating Ohio in Ohio hasn't happened in over 2 decades, not since 2000, would be absolutely satisfying. Back-to-back wins, absolutely satisfying. But going 0-3 to Mel Tucker as Jim Harbaugh, I just don't. Has there ever been another situation where there's been a coach established at Michigan and the dude has come in and gone 3-0 at Michigan State against the Michigan head coach?
I actually don't think it ever has. I'm not sure 0-2 has happened.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like you're starting to get into, setting a precedent like Harbaugh set with Ohio State, where it's like, okay, well, how many more consecutive losses can we take before it's unacceptable? You go 0-3 to Michigan State and people are going to start asking that question.
I feel like I saw this stat before. First of all, I'm not sure how many times it's really happened where a Michigan coach has faced a new Michigan State. Bo was at Michigan for a really long time, so he,
right.
But to answer your question, I don't know if a Michigan State head coach has ever come in and started off 2-0 against the Wolverines as their first 2 chances ever to play against them. I don't think it's ever happened before. I'd have to look back, and I'm sure there's some stat somewhere about that, but I feel like that was the thing that was talked about when Mel Tucker got to 2-0.
What do you think? What do you think about it? I mean, I know Ohio State it's the game, it's the big game, but in terms of like, impact, like I think I asked this question before, what would be bigger, a win against Ohio State or a loss against Michigan State in 2022? And I felt a little bit conflicted on that because I don't know which one does more for the program.
Yeah, it's one of the, like, I see, who was it right here? Otis John, never put MSU above Ohio State. The sky will fall. Like, I feel that way too.
Sure.
It's more like a really specific setup of question for this year. It's not that beating Michigan State is going to carry more weight or be more impactful for the outcome of the whole season. Like, if Michigan takes care of business, there's a very real chance that game in Columbus is for a ticket to Indy again. Like, that's a very real possibility, just like it was this past season. But there's something about what Chris is saying in that narrative of falling to 0-3 against Mel Tucker, losing 2 times in a row at home to the Spartans, when they really just, dude, Mel Tucker's first year, that team had no business beating Michigan. That was a bad team talent-wise, top to bottom. Last year, that team was nowhere near as talented as Michigan, but they did have Kenneth Walker, and they did put it on him in the fourth quarter. That's just what happened. This year, that talent gap is closing every year. And I still think Michigan's more talented on paper. And I think everybody out there would agree. And if you look at mock drafts for next year, that it will tell that story. But you cannot fall to 0-3 against Mel Tucker. We were saying it last year. We were saying, like, we had fired off the cannons after Michigan lost that game.
Well,
and Purdue did some work for Michigan. Michigan killed it the rest of the way. And the rest is history. But after that loss, being 16 late in the game and going to 0-2 and the way it happened, it was, I thought the wheels were going to fall off for the season at that point. I really did. And now that didn't happen, and that's a testament to Jim Harbaugh, the staff, and the team. But that same storyline and that same feeling and that same narrative is going to be there for me this year. You cannot lose that game, dude. You can't.
No. There's nothing else to say about it. You can't go 0-3 to Mel Tucker, especially when 2 of those games come at home and you're Jim Harbaugh. You got to put an end to it, or like you said, that gap. I think that the recruiting gap is going to continue to close anyway, but it's going to start to close a lot quicker when Michigan's going 0-3 against Michigan State.
Yeah, that's a feather, and that's a feather and so big that it can't even fit on Mel Tucker's head, dude. Dude's got a big head, by the way, if you haven't noticed. But anyway, I just, like, grand scheme, Ohio State's always number one. It's not ever going to be not the number one important game on the schedule, but the specific crafting of the question that you can put together for this year's matchup against Michigan State makes it more important in some ways. Like, in terms of the actual win-loss column and what it means in the division this year for a chance to play in Indy, it's probably still going to be Ohio State. But that Michigan State game is huge. It's huge. Yeah. Dwayne, thoughts on Pistons trading Jeremy Grant? Yeah, I was just about to start jumping on here. And for those of you who have forgot, I do run the Pistons site for SI as well. Haven't even put anything up on it yet. But yeah, that's kind of a weird. It's pretty clear that the Pistons are clearing a ton of cap space to make a run at DeAndre Ayton and maybe Miles Bridges, maybe both of them. The Pistons now have like over $50 million in cap space for this year, which is more than double the next closest team. So, they gave them up for not very much. But come on, man. I didn't bring this up on my own. A loyal follower asked about it.
Listen, I like the Pistons.
It's going to be really fun to see what they do with the draft and then moving forward into free agency. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't think Jeremy Grant's all that good. People are like, what does Portland look like now with Dame Dalla and Jeremy Grant? I'm like an 8 seed, maybe. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't know. I think he's good, but I don't think he's changed the franchise good. Now, Anthony Simons is pretty good for them too. So they've got 3 players that can score them all. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, I'll be looking at that a little bit more tonight after I get off of here, and then obviously gearing up for the draft tomorrow. So yeah, we'll see who's that guy. Someone says the Pistons. Who? Yeah. The Pistons. Awesome time to take over the Pistons website when they win like 90 games. I wanted to launch the site when they won the lottery and we're going to draft Cade Cunningham, but it didn't happen. Had to wait. Now I have it, and I don't even know. Go to sipistons.com for me. Everybody in here, just go and click around a little bit and give me some damn clicks on that page because it's pretty much stagnant in the world of Google Analytics. So please help a guy out, man.
It's like in the janitor's closet of Google Analytics somewhere.
I just write a story and send it out, and it's just a fart noise happens when I send it out. Nobody sees it.
It just goes out into outer space and travels infinitely.
Just put a story up about Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Rookie of the Year, Jeremy Grant traded to the Trailblazers, re-signing Marvin Bagley, Troy Weaver. That's what my stories do for the Pistons all day, right there.
It's a tough gig, man. That's a tough gig.
That was a fun stretch. I've never used the fart
stretch.
noise button that much before, but
You went in on it.
yeah, I'm glad I came up with enough things to say right there. You
All right,
impressed?
listen. Before I am impressed. Before we close it out, I do got to ask you. We were in the pool together in Traverse City at the Grand Traverse Resort. There, listen. I know I have body hair. But when I got in the hotel and was showering, I noticed a patch. Did you notice a patch of hair on my back? Apparently, I've been walking around with like this patch of hair on my back. I'm in the hotel room. I'm yelling at my wife. I'm like, "How you let me go down to the pool?" I was curious if you noticed it.
I did not.
Yay big. I'm thinking I look good down there. I'm thinking I look good in the pool. I
Wow.
dropped some weight. Then I get up into the hotel room. And I get out of the shower.
Pretty fast and loose with the word good, I guess.
Well, I'm looking we'll put it that
All
way.
right.
I get out of the shower. They got the full length mirror. I turn around and it's like I'm wearing a wool sweater back there.
Are you talking like small of the back?
No, it was like off to the side. It was off centered. I couldn't even that's what I'm saying. So here's my question.
Asymmetrical back.
Yeah, right. Is it my responsibility to take care of that? Or should I be able to count on my wife to say, look, you can't go out there like that. If I would have known that was on my back, I wouldn't have been pool boy. I wouldn't have been down splishing and splashing around. I would have cleaned it up first.
I will say, you got a pretty drippy family. Your wife's pretty well put together. I feel like she should have your back on that.
Literally.
Yes, correct.
Literally. She should have had my back.
But, I mean, it's pretty easy to give yourself a quick once over before you go out shirtless in public.
I don't know, man. I can't believe I'm getting to that phase now where I got to start shaving my back, waxing my back.
Brother, I feel you told me like if you let it all just go, you would just be hair from the nose down on your whole body. So like
I would, but it's
you're not doing the back hair already.
No, I didn't know. I thought it was all frontal. I didn't know it was backle. Now it's backle.
Backle.
This guy.
Patches, the random beat. Well, hey, I mean, we just did 56 minutes of hard hitting. You get a little back hair going. There's nothing wrong with a little back hair discussion for a couple late.
I was mortified when I got out of the shower. I was like, "What?" And I tried to get it off me. I thought I had like some shit on me.
Was it still wet? Was it like was there like
yes, yeah. Like I could have blow dried it.
It's awesome.
Picked it out a little bit.
I wish I would have seen it. I certainly would have commented on it, I think.
Well, the fact that you didn't gives me.
Well, here's the deal. We both were pretty much. I mean, so for those who the pool was heated and it was only like 63 degrees out that day. So
it was chilly.
You were down in the water and you came up like it was cold. So we were doing turtle swimming pretty much the whole time. We were like right here.
Now it wasn't just me and Brandon in the pool. My son was there.
Oh,
it wasn't like we were. Yeah, it wasn't like we were just.
Yeah, me and Chris weren't playing chicken with nobody. I mean, like there was other people out there. It was completely appropriate setting. I did not see any back hair.
All right. Well, I feel better about that then.
I think I would have told you.
I appreciate that. Would you tell me if you saw a massive patch?
I would have.
We on that level?
Definitely made a joke about it. I would have said, "Bro, I think that wig got stuck in the top of your cord."
Chris Hamill wants to get back to the football talk. Chris, we've got an hour on the football talk.
We're done, bro. Listen. If you don't like a good back hair talk, I can't help you.
Can't help you.
I can't do anything for you on that. Otis John, 40s are rough, huh? Yeah.
Hey.
Start
Late
changing.
30s. I'm not quite there yet. Not
Chris,
quite there
yeah,
yet.
for we could probably at some point do one of those brackets of like the topics that we talk about. What wins in a head-to-head matchup? Back hair patch, Spider-Man dick print. Like that.
Spider-Man dick print's probably going to Final Four. Yeah. We need to put that together. We need to put some of those together.
Final Four, yeah, it's strong. That's a strong topic.
A strong
topic. Well, on that note, I
do want to say hi to my son if he's still watching. Sully, I saw your messages earlier. What's up, buddy?
Oh, geez, we just talked about your spidey sense tingling, and your son's on here watching.
He's used to it.
Yeah, we tend to go off the rails the last couple minutes. I mean, I didn't know
Chris
was going to bring up the back hair thing, but I'm glad
it's just been on my mind. It's been weighing on me.
PSA.
I felt like my wife had betrayed me. I'm trying to look good in the sun. I'm trying to stunt, peacocking.
Fellas, check your back.
Check
you got a little part of the body that hasn't seen the sun in a while.
It's summertime. You're going to the beach. Check your back. It's been a long winter.
It's been a long winter. On a slightly related note, neither Chris or myself took the fat guy long sleeve shirt into the pool. We were out there.
Topless, baby.
We were out there.
Just doing it big. Doing it live.
Malachi, I'm going to let that one slide. I don't really want to discuss that kind of topic right there. Bifocals? Damn, Otis, you're hurting me, dude.
Bifocals?
Yeah, he said 40s bifocals are next. I hope not. I've only been wearing glasses for You don't wear glasses, right? You might be good.
Yeah, I don't wear them. Only when I want to look good.
All right, there you have it. Have your wives check your back hair.
Please do. Have your pet spayed, neutered, and please have your wives check your back hair.
If you're going to wear a skin-tight Lycra suit, make sure you're doing something, for the kids. Do something for the kids.
Cover yourself.
Cover yourselves up. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday. I think we probably will make it a week. I mean, I guess we'll see. If we have something special that we need to jump on for, we'll jump on for it. Talk to you guys later.